Okay, so on our worksheet, we have our first 5 problems here. These guys here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These ones are just determining how much interest will be earned or owed. Okay, so for our first problem here, so we're just going to do I equals P times R times T. So my principal balance is the amount I'm starting with, that's my P. My percentage rate is my R, and my years is my time. So I'm just going to multiply these 3 numbers, and it's going to give me my interest rate. So 23,500 times 0.06 times 5. Okay, so I'm going to multiply those 3 numbers on my calculator, 23,500, 0.06, and 5. All right, so when I multiplied all of that, I got $7,050. So I see that answer right over here, right? So that means gray is my answer for that first one. Okay, so use that example to help you solve the remaining 4 problems. And then what you'll do is we would go to our coloring sheet and we would find the number 1, and anywhere where you see the number 1, you're going to color that spot gray. All right, so let's try a problem from 6 through 10 together. Okay, now this one is like the example one that we just did on the first page. We're going to still find our I equals PRT, but then we're adding it back to the principal to get the total amount of money. Okay? All right, so let's start. 1,750 is our principal. We're going to multiply that times our rate, 0.05, and multiply that times 9. Now we're going to do all of that, and that's going to give us our interest, and then we'll have to add it back to our principal, to our P, which is $1,750. All right, so I'm going to first figure out our interest earned. Okay, so in order to find my interest, I typed into my calculator 1,750 times 0.05 times 9, and that got me my interest right here, 787.5, right? And that's money, so we would usually add that 0 at the end, but we're not done solving yet. So this is my interest, guys, $787.50. So now in order to find the total amount, I have to add it back to the principal. All right, my principal was 1,750. So now on my calculator, I'm going to add my interest plus my principal to figure out my total. Okay, so when I added my interest to my principal on my calculator, I got this amount, $2,537.50. All right, so I can see that that's this guy right here, the purple. So $2,537.50. All right, so now, since that's my answer, I would go onto my coloring worksheet, and anywhere I see a number 6, I would color that part purple. All right, guys, so you're going to do the remaining problems on your own. As you can see, there's not a ton of workspace, but so if you're doing this on Notability, you know, just slide your paper over or something so that you could work on the side, or grab a sheet of paper. And if you're doing it on paper, you might want to solve maybe on a blank sheet of paper or on even the back side of the coloring page, and then you can just find your answers on here. Now, if you don't find your correct answer, right, like if for number 6 here, if I don't see my correct answer as one of these 3 choices, then I've done something a little bit wrong, okay? But notice 787.5, that was my interest, and that is here, that's an answer, right? But for these problems, 6 through 10, we have to find the total amount. So make sure you're being cautious about which problems you're answering. 1 through 5, you only need to find the interest, right? So you're just doing the multiplication. You're not adding it back to the principal. You're just finding the I. But for problems 6 through 10, you have to add it back to the I because you're finding the total amount. All right, so use these 2 problems to help you as you answer the remaining 8 problems on your worksheet. Once you're finished, you can submit this to the assignment on Schoology. And I would love to see the coloring, but I definitely want to see your work. So wherever you do your work, that's what I want to see. All right, guys, talk to you later. Bye. Hey guys, we're going to do a quick review of the simple interest rate formula that you learned about 2 days ago. Okay, so when we have the interest formula, it's interest equals principal times rate times time. So let's define these words and remind ourselves what they mean. Okay, so the interest is the extra money that's charged when money is borrowed. So you might get interest when you borrow money from a bank. You're going to have to pay back extra money because you've borrowed that bank's money. And in the opposite way, if you've put money into a savings account, your money will earn money because the bank is holding it for you. So it's extra money that's charged when you have borrowed money from somewhere. Okay, the principal is the amount of money that you're starting with. And then the rate is going to be the percent, but remember we're always going to change that percent to a decimal. And then the time is just the number of years. All right, so let's look at a problem and practice solving one together. So to buy a computer, Raquel borrowed $3,000 at 9% interest for 4 years. So how much money did she have to pay back? All right, so this is asking us, when it says how much money does she have to pay back, that's asking us to first find the amount of interest, okay? So that's going to be our I. And then what we're going to do is add that interest back to the principal amount, okay? Because we're going to add the interest, the extra money she has to pay, back to the original amount that she also borrowed. All right, so she's borrowing $3,000, that's the principal. The rate, 9%, and the time is years. So our equation is I equals P times R times T. So the interest is what we don't know yet. It's what we're going to solve for, so it stays as our variable. Our principal is $3,000 times our rate, which is 9%, but remember we have to change 9% to a decimal. So our decimal's here, we move it 2 places to the left, and there's a hole there, so we have to add a 0. So 0.09, and then multiply that times the number of years, which is 4. All right, so I'm going to just plug those 3 numbers into my calculator to figure out what my interest is. All right, and when I multiply all 3 of these numbers, I get 1,800. So 1,800 is my interest. That's how much extra money I have to pay back since I'm borrowing the money for my computer, okay? So I'm going to now take that interest. I'm going to do this part right here where I'm going to add my interest back to my principal. So I take my 1,800 and I add it to my original amount, my $3,000. So when I do that, I'm going to add those 2 numbers together. I'll get $4,800. So a computer that costs $3,000 will end up costing $4,800 if I have to buy it maybe on like a credit card or borrow money from a bank to do it. All right, so now that we have that, let's move on to our worksheet and we'll do an example problem there together too.